Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Let's continue on with our very last day of listening. So, in lecture one, we did task one, then lecture two, task two, lecture three, task three. Today, we're going to be doing lecture four, which is task four of the listening portion of the IELTS test. Now, this is going to be about one person speaking on an academic subject, and there's going to be multiple types of questions we'll answer regarding this. Now, this is the hardest part of the listening section is part 4, right? Part 1 is quite simple, right? Part 1 is very simple, very straightforward. Maybe there's no tricky questions, maybe there's one tricky question, and then that's it, right? With section 4, it's a lot more challenging, and I'm going to explain why in a minute. Okay. So first off though, in order to listen to the audio as I'm listening to it, I want you to go to this website here. This is going to take you directly to the audio recording from IELTS.org, courtesy of them, and you can listen to it alongside me listening to it. Okay. So basically, first, before we actually listen to it, though, I want to go over what types of questions there are and talk strategy for each question type, because on the real thing, there are going to be different question types. Okay, so first thing I noticed right away, it says, write no more than 3 words and or a number for each answer. So again, they do not want full sentence answers. They want quick, short answers, right? They're not testing us on whether or not we can write a full sentence or say a full sentence, because they will be well aware of whether or not we can on the writing section, right? So they don't need to evaluate that here too. What they want to know here is did we, when we heard the passage, right? When we heard the audio clip, did we understand what they said, right? Did we understand it? Okay. So it looks like the topic is understanding the world's oceans. So I guess that's probably what the lecture is going to be on. Here it says the robotic float project. Float is shaped like a blank. Okay, so that means our strategy here is we've got to listen for the word, right? We've got to listen when they say the float is shaped like a blank, or if they say, if they mention a shape or with regards to the float, even if they don't word it that way, that's still the answer. So basically, what shape is this float? Okay, for the robotic float project. Okay, then scientists from blank have worked on this project so far. Okay, so that's another key detail we want to make sure we listen for is where are the scientists from? Which place? Okay, all right. Then let's look at the next one. It says also no more, it's kind of cut off there, sorry about that, but it says no more than 3 words and or a number. So same thing. And this is the operational cycle. And looks like here we start with the global satellite, then meteorological station where the information's analyzed. Oh, and looks like a signal from the boat goes to the global satellite. Looks like the float is dropped into the ocean and something by satellite. Okay, so we've got to look at this part. And then what happens here, the average distance traveled, we have to know that. And also the float records changes in salinity. And what else? What do they record, right? So again, similar strategy here. We've got to listen for key things, right? We've got to first of all listen for when they're talking about the operational cycle. We'll know to come to this page, and then we'll have to listen for those specific details. So again, it's really a test of listening for the specific details and writing them down. That's what the test is. And then here they ask, at what time period can the float projects help us with issues? So they're looking at different ones, right? So El Nino, is that going to help us at present, in the near future, or in the long-term future? What about global warming, naval rescue, sustainable fishing practices, crop selection? And keep in mind, you might already be thinking, oh, I know, global warming, that's going to help us for the long-term future, for example. And maybe that's what the clip says. I don't know. I have not heard, well, I have heard it, but let's pretend I haven't heard it. I don't know. But that said, we're not going to give our opinions here. We're going to give what we hear, right? So even if we hear something that, isn't what our personal belief is, that's okay. Just write down what you hear according to the passage, right? Kind of like with our reading, it's kind of like, okay, not our opinion on this, but according to the reading, was this true or false, or was it not given? Was it not talked about? It's kind of like that here, where, okay, according to what we listened to, according to our audio clip, Um, in what time period can these floats help us, right? And so when they mention that, that's what we have to, we have to be alert, and we have to write our answers in here. So there's those three main things that they're going to be testing us on. Okay. So now that we kind of understand what we're being tested on and we understand the strategies we're going to use to do that, I'm going to start playing this clip. Okay, so we already did that. We already looked at questions 21 to 25 over here. In fact, we already looked at all of them, in fact. But yeah. So and that is good to know. They will give you some time for task four. It is harder, and that way you can kind of understand. Okay, here's what we're doing. Here's our strategy for what we need to listen for, and that's going to make it a whole lot easier if we use that time effectively and efficiently. So that's the key thing there. Okay, well I'm going to skip ahead because we actually talked about this. Let's see, where do we? Okay, maybe about 50. Let's see. Let's see where we have to skip ahead to. Not quite. So at like 52, that's where it starts. Okay, so let's listen now. Okay, so sounds like first they just want us to answer 21 to 25, and then we'll perhaps get a break before answering the 26 to 30. So that's good to know that for right now, just these five. Okay, so it's helping the robotic float project is helping with ocean research. Okay, cool. We didn't hear what shape it was. Let's keep listening. Maybe that'll come soon. Okay, there we go. It's shaped like a cigar. So there we go. There's our answer, cigar. There we go. Okay, so the answer actually isn't just one country, it's 13 countries. They don't list all the countries, nor can we, because it says no more than three words or a number. So the answer they're looking for here is just 13 countries. So we can write the number 13 and then countries. So there we go. We finished 21 and 22. So there we go. So they're trying to trick us. They're saying that it will be 14 in the future when Indonesia joins that list of countries. However, the sentence here is asking how many have worked on the project so far. The answer is still just 13 countries because Indonesia hasn't started yet. They're starting later on at a later time. Okay. So therefore, we would just keep it at 13 countries. But they are trying to trick us there and make us second guess. Be like, oh, wait, is it 13 or is it 14? They said both. Well, they said 13 so far. Indonesia is next time. Yeah. There we go. Activated by a satellite. So activated would be 23. So there we go. There we go. So the average distance traveled is 50 kilometers. And here's the thing before they were talking about how deep it was, right? We want to know the average distance traveled, right? That's what we're looking for, which is 50 kilometers, not about how deep. So making sure we write the correct number there is crucial here. The changes in temperature. There we go. Now, here's the problem: the changes in temperature, that's 4 words, right? So, what word can we maybe take out, or could we rephrase this to make it more simple? Well, we could definitely just take out the, right? We could just say for 25, changes in temperature. We don't really need it to say the changes in temperature. And if we say that, we lose points because we can't have more than 3 words. So, changes in temperature. Now, let's say that hypothetically they wanted it to just be 2 words. We would just say temperature changes, right? We would just remove in, right? Because we don't really need in. However, the words temperature and changes are crucial, right? If we don't have them both, then we lose meaning, right? So we need to either say changes in temperature or temperature changes, and either one of those answers is good. All right, so we already did that, but we'll do that again. Let's go over the answers later. But anywho, now we've got to look at 26 to 30. So now what we're listening for is something very specific. We're listening for what time period the float projects can help with issues. So the present, the near future, or the long-term future for each of these things. So we're listening for these keywords and whether they will be helpful in the near future, present, or the long-term future. So let's get back. Let's do. Okay, I think at about 3:30 it starts. There we go. So El Nino would be at present. So the answer would be A, right? Because he's saying that already it's helped with certain things right now at the present. So El Nino would be A. There we go. So global warming also would be at present, right? Potentially. Okay. So now they're saying the results are a long way off. So perhaps it's a little, helping us a bit now, but the results that of the results of these float projects are still not going to happen for a long way off. So, a long way off, what does that mean? That means in the long term future, the distant future. So, at first, it sounded like, oh, maybe that's helping at present right now. But no, the results are a long way off. And they're asking about when it can help with these issues. So, seems like actually 27 will be C instead of A. Okay. So naval rescues, right? Advising the Navy on search and rescue missions. That's in contrast to in the near future, that's also at present. So that one, oh, sorry, that one is going to be A, at present. Okay, moving on. Also, since it said it was, they're very upfront. That's happening right now. Well, there you go. Right now means the present. Okay, when they say well on their way to completing a project, what does that mean? That means perhaps it will be completed in the near future. So not super far off, but they talked about government, right? They talked about having certain laws to preserve fish with these float projects, right? That's what they said. And so it does take a little bit of time for, not 10 or 20 or 30 years or anything, but it does take time for these new laws to be implemented and for the data to be gathered and all that stuff and for real change to happen. So I would say in the near future makes sense for that. And also directly in this script, it specifically said that it was the near future. They made an implication for that by saying that that's that will be completed fairly soon, right? Okay, moving on. There we go. Again, we'll be seeing the results of that quite soon. Okay, so that's in the near future, right? Quite soon means still in the future, but not in the long future, in the near future. So definitely B. That firms it up for yes, B for 29. Agricultural tool. Agriculture has to do with crops, so let's keep listening. This concept is still a long way in the future. So that would be another C, right? A long way in the future for crop selection, but it's still coming. Okay, so now they would just give us time. If this were the real test, they would give us time to look over our answers, check them, make sure we're happy with it, and then hand in our paper. Okay, so let's reveal what the answers are. And again, just a reminder that the answers in brackets are things that are not needed, but that we could put in as well. Okay, so the first answer was cigar, which we got, and then 13 countries, which we got as well, 13 countries. Or if we said 13 different countries, that's also correct. 23 was activated, which we also got. Or if we said is activated, that's also correct. For 24, we said 50 kilometers, which is correct. But if you said average 50 kilometers or average about or around or approximately 50 kilometers or just one of these words with 50 kilometers, all of those are fine as well. As long as we got 50 kilometers and we didn't get caught up in focusing on one of the other numbers. I forget what they were at this point, but one of the other numbers that they talked about when they talked about the depth, right? We wanted to know the length, right? At certain distance, so we had to listen for 50 kilometers. Okay, so then for 25, it was change in temperature. So they had a few different ones that would be correct. If we said temperature, that's good. Changes in temperature or change in temperature is good. Temperature changes or temperature of water, ocean, or sea, also good. So here they had a lot of different variations. I think the simplest one would just be to say changes in temperature because that's their exact wording that they used, but any of these are correct. And then here for these answers, they said A, C, A, B, C, and that's the same as what we got as well. So that's really good. So yeah, so that is it for the listening section. I hope you learned from this, and I will see you next day. Bye, everyone.